Hello, this is Dr. RoboCoach with custom fantasy football cheat sheets, paid for versions that I'm looking at. So if you Google custom fantasy cheat like I've done here, and you take a look, then the top two are ads. The first organic one is fantasypros.com. So let's take a look at Fantasy Pros. I bought this cheat sheet and it's pretty good, I'll say, but overall I still have some questions about it. Now, if you come into Fantasy Pros, um, it's a little, the navigation isn't great. I'm not going to ding them for navigation though. I mean, once you figure it out once, then you know how to get to it. But you have to come in here to the draft wizard, and then it'll take you here. And it's a little bit confusing because I wanted a custom cheat sheet first. But in order to get the custom cheat sheet, they've got this cheat sheet creator over here, but I looked at this and this is absolute crap. It's just so that like you can write up your own custom cheat sheet. That's not what I want. I want something to do it for me. So for that, you have to use the draft assistant. So let's take a look at that. It takes a second or two to load. Okay, it's all loaded. So I click launch assistant. What just happened there? Launch assistant. Lost with draft sync. Um, so yeah, so on your game day, you can sync. For now, I'm just going to do the manual draft assistant because this is not a live draft. It has sync. I should have mentioned that this synced up all my league settings, which is great. Big, huge plus, saves me a half an hour inputting in all that stuff. So it sucked it right out of Yahoo, and that was great. So now I come in here and I want to see a customized cheat sheet, but I that's you can't really get one in the whole view. So this is their, whole view at a glance, and this is worthless. This is just rankings, and there's tiers here, but there's no explanation for how, why Devontae Adams isn't up here. Why is he down there? And usually that means when they don't explain it, it usually means that, well, Devontae Adams is more likely to be drafted in the second round. Really? Well, what if I'm in a 20-team league, which I am? He's going to go in the first round. So why put him in tier two? These tiers have to be they have to be dynamic. They're going to adjust based upon how many players are in your league. So anyway, so this cheat sheet here is worthless. I like the tier information, but I mean, you couldn't print this up and use this. This would be forget about that. Um, so they do give you here, and there's a lot of information here, and I'm going to assume the best. Okay, they mention VBD, so that to me means that they understand that scarcity, supply and demand based calculations are critical. They're the number one most important feature to a customized cheat sheet. So they've got it here, and they've got a lot of great information here. So let's take a look at what they've got. Okay, the one thing that immediately they don't have that they had on the other page was tiers. So those tiers weren't very good that I showed you over there, or at least they didn't appear to be very good. And so I don't see those here. So for example, if I look at these players, um, the sensitivity of the prediction here, we got 413 here, and then 218, 285, 208. So you could probably say these three here are, well, at least Saquon and Alvin are in a cluster together, mathematically speaking, and then maybe you could put Ezekiel up in this cluster, this tier, but there are no tiers. I don't know why they don't have the tiers. But when you don't have a tier, basically what you're saying is that your projection is gospel. and that's just not true. They don't know that Saquon Barkley is going to score 10 more points this year than Alvin Kamara. They don't know that. These numbers are essentially the same, 218 and 208. They're the same player, and if you can get one later than the other, do it. And they're not giving you that tier information here. So uh, that's pretty important. Their VBD is a ranking, and that's okay. I would rather see a VBD point forecast. So is this number, really, should it be 500 based upon value-based drafting? Should it be higher or lower? I don't know. When I go over to the quarterbacks and the wide receivers, that's important because then I can compare apples and apples. But since I'm just looking at points here, I don't know that the VBD has been incorporated here. But at least they say here for the ranking, VBD has been incorporated. But a VBD of, when it's about ranking, a VBD of 100 and a VBD of 99, does that, I hope, there's a 1 point difference, but Christian McCaffrey, he might be in a league all his own. Again, so I need like a tiered VBD, not just a ranked VBD. So again, are these players in the same VBD tier? Could we call it like the 80 tier or the 85 tier or something like that, and just say they're pretty much the same? Not getting that. So that's not good. I mean, the good things, it was a custom forecast. It was based upon all my stuff. With the custom VBD here, they could calculate what is called a WUP, or a wait until pick, if they paired it with average draft position. So the so if you're going to draft players based, on their VBD, then you can say, well, he's going number 1 and the ADP consensus is number 1, and so there's, the wait until pick is 1. But for other players down the list, maybe Kamara is going at 8 and his custom VBD position should be 6, and so you should pick him up at 6. Or if his custom VBD was 10 and his average draft position was 8, then you wouldn't draft him at all because he's a dud. So it will allow you to see which ones are the sleepers, but you're not seeing that here. The only way that you can sort of figure out what the sleepers are by using this number. But I don't want to do that. I want a single number that tells me when I should draft a player, whoop, and I'm not getting it here. Another thing I'm not seeing is depth chart assumptions. So if I look over here and I get down to Nick Chubb, is there anything about, yep, nothing there. I want to know if is he in RBBC with Kareem Hunt this year, or is he going to keep the job? Is he going to lose the job? I'm not seeing that here. That's not good. So no tiers, no depth chart assumptions, no WUP. They do have VBD. They do have custom point forecast. One thing I'm not seeing here is hot or cold. I want to know if the players are going to start hot or cold. If their hardest games are in the beginning of the season and their easiest games are in the back of the season, then it's a backloaded player. I don't want to draft backloaded players. I want to draft front-loaded players. And moreover, I want that to be put into the point forecast. So if you take a look at this number, 413, points today are worth more than points tomorrow. And so you should be discounting the points that they're going to score in week 16. And that's not being done. Otherwise, they would say it was done, because that's important. That would matter to somebody. And at the very least, if they couldn't do the discounting of points scored later in the season, they could say, plus. In other words, he's front loaded, or minus, he's backloaded. And then, yeah, I have to do some thinking during the draft. Maybe I use the plus and the minus when I can't make up my mind between two players, I take the front-loaded player. So um, everything should be incorporated into the point forecast. I'm just not getting that here. So not so good. Paid a lot for this. All right, and one more thing that they show here is this SOS strength of schedule number. Again, SOS, another meaningless thing. If it was important, you should use it to put into this number. Everything should be boiled down into a VBD, scarcity, supply and demand based projection. I don't want during the draft to think, oh, his strength of schedule is this or that. Just give me one number. If you've got an algorithm that includes that number into the calculation of the point forecast, then that's great. I can use that. Strength of schedule, maybe you, again, front loaded or back loaded would be better. A simple plus or minus would be better. But if somebody's got like the hardest schedule, then that's already calculated into their point forecast, hopefully. I mean, I assume that you consider that in your calculation. So why include it here? If it's already in this number, why show it here? You're just filling space. I don't know. Again, again, useless. ADP, that's good, but it has to be paired with the projected, your projected based upon your league, where they should go, the WUP. So that you can figure out when to pick a player, who are the sleepers and busts, that sort of thing. But at least it's there. Again, worthless. This expert consensus ranking is number 3. Again, I've seen this in other draft things, and pretty much the the custom cheat sheets that I've seen almost correlate 100% with the ECR that I've seen. So otherwise you could use this to, as maybe a sleeper or bust kind of calculation, but the cheat sheet, 3-3, 2-2, 1-1. These guys aren't sleepers and busts. They're going exactly where the expert consensus ranking says they should go. So that sort of tells me that if that's 100% correlated, the custom cheat sheet that I just got, that's based upon my league rules, they shouldn't be 100% correlated because my league is not like every single other league. It's different. And so if the expert consensus is based upon some average league, then my different league shouldn't follow this. There should be some differences. Let's take a look at another position. So let's take a look at wide receivers. Now, here we go. Again, the numbers are the same. So you'll start to see that with wide receivers, if you start to see like the ECR and the ADP, again, we're seeing complete correlation. This is a little bit different. Might be some useful information there. Maybe they're saying that he's a sleeper in my league, but again, I shouldn't have to do the math in my head. I should get a WUP. So in Michael Thomas's case, I should be taking him at his ADP. I shouldn't be trying to wait, or excuse me, vice versa. Expert consensus ranking. Let's say that this was the number that Fantasy Pros gave me. It was a 6, and then his ADP was a 4. Well, that means he's a dud. He's going before where he's projected to score for my league. So that's an example of what a WUP would be. But ECR is not WUP. ECR is just sort of like ADP. So the two numbers, not very useful. They do have this, they got these things, again, if they have notes about a player, that's great. I don't really want to see notes though. Um, I want, I would expect that any notes that affect a player's outcome